Sean Thorne liked the quiet of the ambassadorial wing's forgotten corners. It was just him, the hum of the station, and the machinery. But the universe, it seemed, had a personal vendetta against his peace. He knew the conduit was trouble the second he touched it. A warning tone chirped, a digital death rattle, and then the system thought about exploding. So it did. The shockwave punched Sean into the opposite wall. Metal groaned, locks failed, and the heavy blast door slid open with a defeated clunk. Pushing himself up through aching ribs, Sean stumbled into the breach, checking for casualties. He froze. A woman stood in a purification bath, water cascading off blue skin, her black hair clinging to her shoulders. She was royalty. She was terrifying. And she was fully naked. I'm sorry, Sean stammered. You, she snapped, eyes flashing like cutting lasers. You invaded the sanctity of my cleansing cycle. Before he could explain the concept of accidental explosive entry, two armored guards barreled into him, slamming his face into the polished floor. Law of Scars, Tarla, the Xylon heir, pronounced later in the judgment hall. She was armored now, a warrior queen carved from ice and duty. You viewed an heir in her vulnerable form. The scar on my honor must be resolved. Union or removal? Define removal, Sean asked, though he already knew. Execution. I choose marriage, Sean said, the words tasting like ash. Know this. Tarla stepped close, her voice a cold blade. This bond is in name only. You touch me without permission, I break your hand. You are a political shield, nothing more. Trust me, Sean muttered. I'm not thrilled either. But someone rigged that conduit, Tarla. You're being set up. She ignored him. The ceremony was a blur of metallic bands and cold glares. But the ink on the marriage certificate wasn't even dry before the fallout began. Xior, Tarla's cousin, and a man whose ambition outweighed his blood loyalty, didn't wait. He issued an honor challenge. At dawn, Sean stood in the arena sands. Across from him was a champion, the size of a cargo hauler, wielding a resonance blade that hummed with enough energy to shear a tank in half. Sean held a combat knife. Unfair? Sean asked Tarla, who stood on the viewing podium. If you were expected to survive, she said, it wouldn't be a test. The gong thundered. The champion lunged, a brutal arc of energy slicing the air where Sean's head had been a second before. Sean didn't fight with strength. He fought with the desperation of a mechanic who knows how things break. He dodged, weaved, and let the giant overextend. When the champion swung a vertical strike meant to crush bone, Sean darted inside the guard. He slashed the back of the knee, used the giant's own momentum, and torqued the massive arm until the shoulder popped with a sickening crunch. He slammed the champion's head into the wall. Silence fell over the arena. I survived him, Sean panted, looking up at Tarla. You did more than survive, she noted, a flicker of something dangerous and new in her eyes. But the victory was short-lived. The arena lights flickered. A siren wailed, not a drill, but a death knell. Security breach, Central Command compromised. Xior, Tarla hissed. He baited the challenge to distract us while he took the command deck. If he holds the deck, he vents the atmosphere, Sean realized. We're dead. Not if we move. They sprinted, not as royal and consort, but as fugitives. Xior's loyalists flooded the corridors, plasma bolts scorching the walls. They were forced into the station's guts. The maintenance shafts Sean knew better than the backs of his own hands. In the steam-choked darkness of a storage bay, the adrenaline crashed into them. They stood chest to chest, breathing hard, the space too small for politics. You should not be here, Tarla whispered, her armor brushing his chest. You are a liability. I'm the guy who just disabled 3 guards so you could get through the door, Sean countered, stepping into her space. We're past pretending. Tarla, she looked at him, really looked at him, the ice in her eyes melting into something fierce. I should not want this. But you do. She grabbed his shirt and kissed him. A collision of survival and desire, messy and desperate. It lasted a heartbeat, but it shifted the gravity of the entire station. When she pulled back, her forehead resting against his, the alliance had shifted. It wasn't a shield anymore. It was a weapon. Xior is in Central Command, she said, her voice steady. We end this. They fought their way up, a two-person army. Tarla was the storm, a whirlwind of plasma blade precision. Sean was the anchor, watching her blind spots, firing suppressed shots, moving in perfect sync with a woman he'd met amidst an explosion hours ago. They breached the command deck doors. The room was silent. Officers lay stunned or fled. Zaire stood at the central console, a plasma caster leveled at them. "The fugitives arrive," Zaire sneered. "Tarla, you are weak. You let a human taint our line." He fired. He didn't aim for Tarla. He aimed for Sean. Tarla moved faster than thought. She threw herself into the path of the bolt. The blast slammed into her shoulder, spinning her around. "Tarla!" Sean caught her, the smell of ozone and burnt armor filling his nose. "A wound is all I need," Zaire laughed, reloading. "The council will see you bleed for a pet." "No," Sean said, his voice dropping to a terrifying calm. He didn't charge. He turned to the console. His fingers flew across the haptic interface. "You think you won because you have a gun? I have the system." "Systems are offline," Zaire shouted. "I rerouted them from the maintenance bay." Sean tapped a final key. "Smile, Zaire. You're on camera." The giant main screen flickered to life. It wasn't a tactical map. It was a recording. Zaire in the shadows, conspiring with the traitor guards, admitting the sabotage, admitting the coup. Every screen on the outpost, from the mess hall to the council chambers, broadcast his treason. Zaire's face crumbled. "You—" Tarla straightened, ignoring her wound. She kicked the caster from his hand and pinned him to the deck, her blade humming at his throat. "Finish it," Zaire spat. "Show them you are a killer." "No," Tarla said, deactivating her blade. "Death is too easy. You will live in exile. You will be nothing." The loyalist guards burst in a moment later, securing the traitor. But the real trial came an hour later in the crystalline hall. The elders waited. The air was heavy with judgment. Tarla," the High Elder intoned, "you have survived betrayal. You have proven your strength. But what of the human?" Silence stretched tight as a wire. Tarla turned to Sean. Her shoulder was bandaged, but she stood tall. "This human saw me at my most vulnerable. He fought for a throne that wasn't his. He saved this station when my own blood tried to destroy it." She extended her hand, not a command, an invitation. "Do you claim him as your equal?" the elder asked. "I do," Tarla said, her voice ringing off the crystal walls. The room gasped, but Sean stepped forward, taking her hand. The connection was warm, solid, real. "Consort Sean Price," the elder asked, "do you accept the danger of this union?" Sean looked at the woman who had threatened to break his hand, who had fought beside him in the dark, who had taken a bullet for him. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. Tarla squeezed his hand, a smile touching her lips, rare and radiant. "Let the galaxy know," she declared to the room, "the matriarchy rises, and we do not stand alone." As the applause thundered, drowning out the hum of the station, Sean leaned in close. "You walked into my life by accident," Tarla whispered, "but you stayed by choice." "I'll keep choosing you," Sean promised, "for as long as you let me." "I intend to let you," she said, leaning in, "for a very long time."